In 2022, Nigeria reached its breaking point. 200 million citizens of Nigeria has suffered immensely from the terror of bad leadership that plagues Nigerian endlessly. This gravity of the hardships encountered by Nigerians can only be compared to the European enslavement of Africans. Were the simple devastating tactics used by Europeans known as divide and rule system is well understood and implemented by Nigerian politicians. This tactics give birth to the most inhumane havoc and turbulence that nothing good will come of it except exploitations, loot and economic digression, with thousands of graduates outbursting yearly. Parent investing heavily on the of their ward's education. Most universities are on strike due to poor payment schemes designated to the college university's lecturers that isn't private. The Nigerian senators are so paid above any payment ever known to mankind. Yet Nigerian minimum wage set by the Nigerian legislatures is so poor and little for the sustainability of workforce below the lowest class. This political torture and horror is like no other in any part of a nation with so much abundant of mineral and human resources. There was no plan to curb the massive aggression of graduates rolling out of college every year. At the mark of this enigmatic educational system, Nigerian youth developed the slogan, "Last school is a scam," considering the amounts of time and financial input into Nigerian education system. And the output, in reference to entrepreneurship system of business that is commonly known and practiced within the Eastern region. Truly Nigeria's school system is a scam. JAM for instance that its certificates expired every year if the applicant have no financial taproot to fund his or her education. All his effort becomes in vain. The JAM registration fee is gaining muscle every year. This is one among many scam in Nigeria education system. Aside the fact that viability of Nigerian education system is not feasible to the growth of Nigerian economy as a mega scam. Nigerian political elites are aware of this false education system that doesn't fuel Nigerian economic growth. That's why 95% of Nigerian leaders choose to send their children's studies overseas, even as Nigerian employment rate is growing at alarming levels does not affect the ruling class. Once their children are done with studies overseas, there is employment opportunities awaiting their arrival. That's why Nigerian election is often perceived as a do-or-die affairs among the top elites who emerges of candidates in different respective positions. As the room for micro and large-scale industrialization was cut off by the propaganda of unstable power supply by bad leadership. Unemployment rate exploded aggressively. Its terror and horrors sparked massive aggression demonstrated in disguise of banditry, terrorism and agitation to secede. In the context of its torture of hunger and starvation of necessity that life should bring, Nigeria hits its breaking point and yet it doesn't ring bell in the ears of Nigerian leaders to foresee the impending outbreak of war between Nigerian youths and political stakeholders that is looming like hurricane. Massive looting of public funds in Buhari administration and borrowing of funds breaks a record in Nigerian history. Including Naira devaluation, hike in fuel price, electricity tariff, inflation, and poverty rate is skyrocketing super fast. All reached the peaked height it has never getting 50% to before, as politicians ceased from implementing credible steps that will rejuvenate Nigerian economy to looting public funds, borrowing billions of dollars which heighten Nigeria international debt like never before, placed Nigeria under a siege of collapse, insecurity rate plummeting as bandits constantly cashing out by adopting anyone they can get their hands on, demanding outrageous sum to release the adopted. Buhari administration negotiating with these bandits and paying the sum demanded fuels the bandits' ego to advance further, growing exponentially. Seemingly the Nigerian who perpetuated this act of banditry is due to bad governance of Buhari administration's responding to their ransom demands, sees this act of banditry as a very lucrative business that pays a staggering sum to buy more weapons and recruits more, who are willing to join their moving train. While the time ticks Turks, these bandits advanced even further, threatens to adopt Buhari the president of Nigeria, after attacking the military base, killing handful of guards brigades in Abuja federal capital of Nigeria. Since Buhari administration, Abuja-Kaduna highway that was safe before now has turned into a banditry den and hostile territory for kidnappers, makes traveling unsafe either by road, train or by air. How did we get here is the great question. To understand this better, let's rewind the clock back 8 years ago. when Nigerian had a fresh air from a man called Goodluck Ebele Jonathan. Just as his name implied changed the life of Nigerian. Nigerian living standards at that time was remarkably up, shining like a star. It might not be comparable to that of Libyan citizens at the time of Muammar Gaddafi. Before Barack Obama administration paralyzed Muammar Gaddafi military power, making him vulnerable of being captured by rebels and slaughtered, using NATO, seems like a well-planned and implemented strategy. If Obama administration have problems with Muammar Gaddafi and other African countries' leaders staying 4 decades in power while turning a blind eye on Queen Elizabeth of England, is definitely a plot against African uprisings. Nigerians with their ignorance didn't recognize the golden spoon which Goodluck Jonathan administration put brain and economics together to serve on the table. Goodluck Jonathan tenor suffered lots of brutal act of terrorism from Boko Haram that claimed lives of innocent citizens blown to bit on Sunday morning in Niger State. A fraction among many grains of sand of bombing attacks, including the Bring Back Our Girls staged propaganda to unseat the then sitting president of Nigerian Goodluck Jonathan, which shows the footprint of Barack Obama administration involvement into Nigerian politics to unseat the sitting president, using Michelle his wife, international celebrities and any cockroach they could manipulate to facilitate their political atrocities. Nigerian citizens' becloudedness wouldn't let them see clearly where the dance step is leading them like a lamb to the slaughter and butcher path, a state of destruction which comes highest Naira devaluation ever recorded in history of Nigeria, out of which recession, inflation and hardships, insecurity like of which that has never been seen before, emerge from a devil dance with Barack Obama administration. Barack Obama is seemingly elected to target and shoot down any African country that is enterprising and soaring up to upgrading its economic growth and lifestyles. With one devil dance with Obama administration, such nation sunshine turns dark without hesitation. Dollar exchange rate to Naira was 150 Naira per dollar when Goodluck Jonathan was in power. The motor spirit cost per pump was 87 Naira per liter. At the context and talk of fuel subsidization, and cost of fuel was raised to 97 Naira per liter, quickly without hesitation. Adam Oshomole, who was then Nigerian Labour Congress president, mounted a revolt against the increase in cost of motor spirit cost per pump and was reversed back to 87 Naira until Goodluck administration ended. It's shocking this cost change from 87 to 175, and Nigerian Labour Congress never put the same energy as they did during the Goodluck Jonathan administration. In 2015 APC got Nigerian coined with the word change, without proper investigation of the type of change they ignorantly dancing into. Unknown to them, the change they sorted for was million miles away from getting close to their anticipated change. It was a change from good to worse, a reset back into 8 years of carnage and Stone Age. As death threats from different corners locks like a missile against the sitting president Goodluck Jonathan, from White House and other unnamed sources, the 2015 election could be anything but free, credibility or fairness or ghost in the menu. The pressure from Barack Obama office to Goodluck Jonathan intensified the fear in the heart of President Goodluck Jonathan. In such a terrifying and overwhelming situation, he quickly loosed grip of power.
Obama's government was very overwhelming. It's not as if I couldn't have won the election even with that. But if, by my own thinking, and also the way some other people look at it, they go outside the normal diplomatic relationship, then it should be mentioned.
Allowing people's votes casted for his continuation get trampled upon, by congratulating the opposition presidential candidates even before the electoral result was aired, issuing a public statement that reads,
"No matter our ambition, we should not sacrifice the life of Nigerians. That nobody's ambition, even if you want to be 20 presidents of this country, your ambition is not worth the blood of any Nigerian."
Political ambition isn't worth any bloodshed of Nigerian citizens. This statement from Goodluck Jonathan was made prior to General Buhari threats of war if he loses the election, will plunge the monkeys and baboon in blood. Unknown to Goodluck Jonathan, the stampede on the Nigerian citizens' vote casted for his continuation, will result into even worse state that involved loss of hope, life and property and prosperity. In this state comes horrific recession, banditry, worse insecurity and Biafran agitation for secession due to the hopelessness route Nigeria is futureless heading, like a Titanic after a kiss with the iceberg. As Fulani headsman invades homes of innocent civilians, massacred communities of hundreds, this terrorist under the disguise of Fulani headsman, burnt down hundreds of homes, destroying life properties and farmlands. At this point, loud outcry of pains and anguish echoes across the vast land of Nigeria. Buhari administration put little to no strict countermeasures to curb the high insurgency and attacks carried out by the Fulani herdsmen. Instead declared Operation Python Dance and Crocodile Smile operation through the army chief by name Burate, against the Nigerian Eastern region unarmed protesters called IPOB, which out of bad governance and torment of hardship, risked to embark on the course of secession through the leadership of Nnamdi Kanu, as no help from the so-called United Nation of European world in my book, sends panics waves across the other part of Nigeria, living in fear of new terror called Fulani headsmen. As poverty toll continues to reverend it engine to full throttle, hunger turns laws-abiding citizens into criminals of different shades in attempts to survive the most horrifying and terrifying recession ever recorded in the history of Nigeria. Buhari administration put more than 200 million lives of Nigerian citizens into a horrific terror of a roller coaster they never imagined possible. Like no other, as hope seems very far from Nigerian youth's grasp, the light and vision to move further deemed in teardrops. Hope for a fair life now resides outside the borders of Nigeria to foreign nations. The West and European overseas watching the terror unleashed on Nigerian citizen by a bad and corrupt leader. Instead of contributing their help to soften the burdens on Nigerian citizen, they fastened the doors of their boaters at this desperate times. Nigeria's citizens become completely vulnerable to internet fraud stars, as they made their way through loopholes created by the Nigerian renegade politicians. Internet fraud dance its way into vast heart of vulnerable Nigerians, scavenging many of their sweats and futunes. The white light turned dark, wrecking more havoc. Alliance Global Network, Green World, GNLD, Golden Circles are fractions among many scams brands who troll into Nigerian citizens' internet space with enticing promises, which Nigerians fell for losing billions of its fortune, in attempt to escape the torture of hunger and recession brought upon them. At this juncture, the hunted become a hunter. This is the rebirth of Nigerian internet fraudstars aka Yahoo Boys. Yahoo Boys is a code name for scammers who swindle Western nation through email compromise. Yahoo Boys has never been as outbursting, famous and growing at alarming rate until Buhari administration took over the power and flopped Nigeria economy, making life a living hell for over 200 million Nigerian youths. If the promise made by Buhari during his campaign of making 1 naira equal to $1, fuel pump price 50 naira per liter, as much as diversification of Nigerian economy, was quarterly implemented, Nigerian cyber criminal will not come into existence in the first place. The staggering forex exchange rate of $1 is equal to 600 naira makes foreign currency so valuable and target to be stolen through internet fraud. Fuel pump per liter that was 87 at the time of Goodluck Jonathan increased further to 165. It's disappointing and disheartening to believe that Nigeria, the highest crude oil producer among OPEC, have no fuel for its usage, that its scarcity and increment in cost per pump against the campaign speech blows cost of commodity to inflation 4 times its original cost. Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation and Western nation Shell will have a better answer as why Nigerian refineries faces depletion and other corrupt practices sucking life out of Nigerians. Each time the Nigerian motor spirit cost added a bar, local commodity cost automatically increased, aggressively fueling the flight of poverty, lack and criminality. As fuel scarcity further pushed life sustainability means downwards, throttling hardship rate, many businesses began to fold as investors cut their loss, take their profits heading to the exit. Forex exchange rate makes matter worse. By each pip the dollar gained against naira, comes with it hardships, lacks, and hunger, chiseled its way into Nigerians in full scale, increasing local product cost by 200%. Over 200 million life of Nigerian citizens who don't belongs to ruling table, have no hope of tomorrow, no future, and life comes crashing. With unpatriotic and unrepentant politicians whose sweeping words taste sweeter than sugar and honey combined, different lies told every 4 years, with same bad governance strategy, made life a living hell for the great elephant of Africa. The abandonment of the mega factories in Nigeria such as the steel, textile, rubber industry, community schools, heat sector, petrol refineries, the dilapidated power sector by Nigerian leaders in preferences of Asians, Europeans and American is definitely a cruel plan to undevelop Nigerian human resources further, out of which comes living below standard and creates more room for brain draining by European imperialists. As the 2023 Nigeria general election emerges, comes a refreshing opportunity to make amend of the long chains and shackles of mental, political and cannibalistic system of governance, to reinvent, restructure and rebrand Nigeria for the emancipation of Nigerian youths from political catalytic atrocities that has shameless shattered the hopes and swindled the future of vast Nigerian youths majority. Most brave and intelligent Nigerian youths' hands now are on desk to revise the horrific depleting state of Nigeria to an enterprising fundamental and thriving nation through the Labour Party presidential aspirant Peter Obi, who possesses exceptional and astronomical records and qualities of good leadership by example, whom past verifiable records, has set a headline, through which Nigerian youths can confide in his keen interests in innovation and use development as the only way to bring Nigerian out of the hands of old ruined who have no better plans other than plunging into pit of hell. 2023 general elections and other challenges. Those who have benefited graciously from the blood-sucking carnivorous political plagues, are still blinded by religion and tribal sentiments to overthrow their logical morality into choosing to vote for political party and aspirant whom death trap plans, lie so obviously that even the blind will never fall for. While logical thinking, creative-minded, vibrant, useful youths of Nigerian who have eyes of an eagle, can read the handwriting of death and doom locking, if by mistake voted one of the crocodiles into power, the worst political havoc and atrocity will set a new record of national death roll that its finales will plunge Nigeria into war, or bring death by hunger, poverty and by starvation into whooping 200 millions of Nigerians. Although that mistake will not seem to happen, as you could see how furious the agonizing, hard-working and creative Nigerian youths whom out of the capitalist divide and rule system political atrocities has caused more divisiveness by their religion, ethnicity and political party, break record of voters registration exercise, dropped aside political rivals aside, to be united by one common problems that plagues the vast majority of Nigerian population, ready to make a bold statement that will forever change the future of not only Nigerian but Africa.
Before criticizing Nigerian youth's rise to internet fraud, going to the root cause and addressing it will do more justice than building jail, so I advise you save your energy from witch hunting. From my analytical assessments of the massive outburst rise of Nigeria, fraudster officially started offline, driven by the same factor, before advancing further into internet space. This aren't a problem with Nigerian youths, but are consequences of a failed state due to multiple failed leadership. This corrupt practice is constantly evolving due to fact that it's perpetuated by top stakeholders, while the youths who don't belong to ruling class automatically weaponizes any internet-capable device, using internet service as the fuel, while hunger, starvation and poverty is the driving force and inspiration to keep pushing to survive the horror. These depleted Nigerian economy due to bad governance created astronomical double standard, which it feels, is enough to burst the pipeline, as gives financial power to the victors who either by hook or crook gain political power to live luxuriously, while living the vanquished, empty, jobless, futureless and hopeless. Each slice of failure in Nigeria economy resource management, create more room for hunger and criminality, which the Nigerian government has scored F150 woefully to address on several counts, instead choose to hide under the umbrella of fighting corruption, while the vast majority of Nigerian lavish in hardcore poverty. It's easier for the Economic Financial Crime Commission (EFCC) to lock behind bars citizens who are struggling to earn meat, rather than apprehending stakeholders who are constantly looting Nigeria treasury into bankruptcy in billions of dollars and naira, in form of oil theft, supplying neighboring countries whose cost of PMS is 3 times the cost it sold in Nigeria, through Sokoto borders. There will be no need trying to scam a cent from Western nation citizens if the value of Nigerian currency is pairing head-to-head with pounds, euro or US dollars in equal terms, not having this astronomical difference which makes it not only valued by Nigerian but a high target. It doesn't end there. The 62 promises made by Muhammad Buhari during his campaign was vastly abandoned after stepping into power, which constituted 90% into blowing Nigerian living standards out of proportion and plunging Nigeria into breaking point.
As I sat down to pen down this content from the abundance of my ink, is to remind and refresh Nigerian youths of their undivided unity against police brutality in 2020 that yield the results that its signature still live fear in the heart of the politicians. That is sparked up from Twitter using a simple hashtag #EndSARS. This time, we can even do better in 2023 election. Don't forget the 109 billion naira stolen by the account general. Don't forget the case of Magu EFCC financial fraud case that died. Don't forget thousands of Nigerian youths arrested as suspects of internet fraud, that's locked behind bars to rot in jail, and no single political stakeholder looting billions that never visit police cells. I believe by the time you are watching or hearing this you have already acquired your PVC. The change we seek to obtain in Nigeria come 2023 has never been achieved before. But I trust in our unity as youths, fathers and mothers, who cherish the future and welfare of their children. This decision begins with you and I being obedient. There is a lot to be done, but our standing strong together regardless of the tribe, religion or political party, to manifest as the leaders of tomorrow, begins with you and I voting for someone who shares our pains and aspirations. Not by cheap talks, someone who absorb our criticism to amend his steps. Someone who has laid vast examples as masterpiece, someone whose footprints is our master plan to scrutinize any political aspirant to determine his or her credibility and integrity. Not one who will promise to build bridges where there is no river, but one that have humanitarian attributes and a pricking conscience, who have passion to serve not to loot public funds to enrich his 20th generation, while starving the vast millions, not one with iron fist, one whose selfish political ambition is fraction compared to the interest of making Nigeria a better and greater nation, safe for economic development and growth, who is transparent, probity and accountability. Peter Obi and Yusuf Datti from my assessments would make the most remarkable change in Nigeria history we vastly share. I am Obadiah and thanks for watching.